Before we get started, this video is brought to you by Jericho's Pizza. Find out more at the end of the video. In 2009, the newborn App Store was full of excitement. There were hundreds of apps and games to download, and a decade later, most of these have been lost to time. One game, however, had a cultural impact like no other. I'm of course talking about Rovio's hit mobile game, Angry Birds. While most people have played Angry Birds for a couple of hours, very few know about the 23 sequels and spin-offs, each coming with their own lore that builds a very complex, overarching plotline. In this video, I'm going to do the arduous job of playing, analyzing, and placing each game onto a single canon timeline. But before we get started, let me clarify. I'm only going to be talking about the mobile games. No, I will not be looking at the Angry Birds movie or its sequel. No, I will not be looking at Piggy Tales or Angry Birds Blues animated series. And no, I will not be looking at the Angry Birds Space Encounter ride at the Kennedy Space Center. With that being said, let's start with the first game ever released, the OG Angry Birds. While this game doesn't have too much in-depth lore, it does a great job of introducing us to the main characters and the bird versus pig conflict. The first episode, Poached Eggs, sees Red, Chuck, Bomb, Matilda, and the Blues in shock of the realization that the pigs have stolen their eggs. The antagonistic pig coven, led by the sinful King Pig, is eventually defeated after a fast-paced 63 levels. In the next chapter, Mighty Hoax, the birds are once again left furious as the pigs replace their eggs with faux shells. This cycle continues for the rest of the first game, although we are introduced to new friends such as Terrence, Boomerang Bird, Bubbles, and the Divine Stella along the way. This is going to get shifted around as we continue, but for now, let's just put the original Angry Birds smack dab in the middle of the timeline. Before we move on, I just want to take this moment to admire the incredible character design talents that went into crafting each Angry Bird. When you isolate each bird and look at them, you can immediately tell what kind of personality each one has. Red, for example, radiates the fiery energy of a collegiate soccer coach yelling from the sidelines. The Blues give off the same whimsical absent-mindedness that my coma-ridden brother does as he lays in bed all day. And Matilda, you can instantly tell that she has a great heart, but unfortunately holds deeply racist beliefs. I just wanted to commend the character artist at Rovio for hitting this aspect of the series out of the park on their first try. Alright, back to the timeline. So most of you are probably thinking I'm going to discuss Angry Birds 2 next, but that one's actually super strange, so I'll be getting back to it later. For now, we're going to move on to Angry Birds Star Wars 1 and 2. Now, both of these games begin with the phrase, "a long time ago in a nest far, far away," leading me to believe that these games have to be the starting point on our timeline. And a diligent player will notice that Angry Birds Star Wars 2 is actually a prequel to Angry Birds Star Wars 1, so now this is our starting point on the timeline, at least so far. Hey everyone, we're about halfway through the video now, and I just wanted to remind you to stay tuned until the very end to hear some very exciting news on behalf of Jericho's Pizza. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the video. Before we delve too far into the past, let's center ourselves with a little discussion of the future. That's right, we're going to be getting into the fan-favorite Blast trilogy. These three games include Angry Birds Blast, Dream Blast, and Blast Island. And no, I will not be including Angry Birds Pop Blast because that was initially released under the name Angry Birds Pop 2. And while we're on the topic of retcons, I suppose it's as good of a time as ever to just run down the list of changes that I do or don't consider to be canon. The physics tweaking for gravity between Angry Birds Space 1 and 2. I consider this retcon to be canon, as gravity changes over time in the real world, so I don't see why this would be unrealistic in the Angry Birds universe. Using the Angry Birds movie design and the Angry Birds action game. When this game was announced, it actually used the same art style as previous games in the series, but upon release, Rovio changed it to use the character models from the movie. I'm pretty split on this one, so I'm going to say for the sake of simplicity that the actual gameplay and audio effects are canon, but the graphics and UI are total rancid bullshit. Terrence's voice actor dying before the release of Angry Birds Transformers. This one is super sad, but just a month before the release of Angry Birds Transformers in October 2014, the voice actor for Terrence, Clancy Brown, passed away. They replaced Terrence's voice with a dub done by Irish voice actor Tate Sullins, and he did a great job for being Irish. I'm gonna count this as canon because just a couple months before his passing, Clancy Brown was quoted in an interview saying, "If I die, I don't want my voice to echo without a body. I'll never sleep a wink." Okay, back to the Blast trilogy. Their placement on the timeline is actually pretty logical to discern. The latex balloon was invented in 1824, so it's safe to say that these games likely take place around the turn of the 20th century. And based on the cutscenes within the games, these take place in order of chronological release, so let's plop them right over here on the timeline. Hey everyone, we're about halfway through the video now, and I just wanted to remind you to stay tuned until the very end to hear some very exciting news on behalf of Jericho's Pizza. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the video. Next up, we're going to discuss the elephant in the room, Angry Birds Go. This kart racer released in December of 2013, I just have to say, I am incredibly nostalgic for this one. Graphics, the visuals, freedom. I guess what I'm really getting at is, I love Angry Birds. I know I haven't remained the truest fan over the years, I haven't played all the spin-offs, and I never bought the Angry Birds trilogy for Xbox 360, but still, I love this franchise. The way Chuck looks at me before I fire him from the slingshot, the satisfying pop of the bad piggies, the ever-beautiful Stella. This series somehow crafted the recipe for a perfect game and then continued to nail it 23 times and counting. I just feel like it's going to be a long time until we see something as magical as Angry Birds again. And until then, I'm going to keep scrubbing away at deciphering its incredible lore.
Welcome to Jericho's Pizza. What's that? You ain't tried our signature sauce yet? Let's give it a go. $2 a slice, $3 two slices. Right off the 405.